Hello everyone and welcome to Blogger and Everything and welcome back to the channel. And what this is going to be for today is this is going to be a preview, I guess, of sorts. I don't know. It's going to be my attempt at guessing at how Hansi Flick is going to set up at FC Barcelona. So, very much what to expect from Hansi Flick type of scenario. So maybe that's going to be the title of the video at the end of the day. Anywho, I just came in doing this intro because I did want to give my apologies. This was supposed to have been up by like Sunday, maybe Monday latest, but this is Wednesday and this one I'm recording this now, so I don't even know if this is going to be up today or it's going to be up tomorrow on Thursday. But whatever the case anyway, I did just want to apologize for that. But other than that, if you're new, of course, do hit the like and the subscribe. We do a lot more stuff like this here on the channel, a lot of fun stuff. And also, shout out to the Football Analysts. Check that website out. Did inspire this video, in some way. Like, I wanted to make this video, but they helped make my work a lot easier, brought a lot of their graphics. So, check them out if you can. But aside from that, that's basically that. Enjoy this, and I hope you have fun. This will be the last you'll be seeing me in this video, by the way, because the rest of this is all kind of like just random graphics and B-roll. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you may or may not know that FC Barcelona is coming off what was somewhat of a disastrous campaign. I mean, sure, there were some moments that were some real highs from it, but more often than not, it was characterized by some really nasty lows, including losing 3 El Clásicos on the bounce to Real Madrid and getting dumped out of the Champions League by Paris Saint-Germain at home by a score of 4-1. So it probably went without saying that it's not much of a surprise in hindsight that it was Xavi Hernandez's last season, though with the way everything went down with Xavi being sacked, it was giving, soap opera, what with Laporta going back on his decision which he had made after forcing Xavi to go with the decision that he had made. And Xavi as well yo-yoing between leaving the club and staying, and well, eventually, like we are saying here, he did leave, he got sacked, and now he has been replaced, and his replacement is none other, of course, than Hansi Flick. All of this should not be news to you if you're not living under a rock, but in case you are, well, I've got your back. That's the 411, as the kids used to say like 20 years ago. Yeah, but now that you've been brought up to speed, what we're going to be doing here is looking at Hansi Flick and what exactly we can expect from him in his time at FC Barcelona. We know that Joan Laporta is somebody who was a long-time admirer of Hansi Flick. He said as much during his most recent interview, where he did a lot of talking, yeah, and he also explained why he got Hansi Flick. And to just put it all in a nutshell, by his own admission, he had been a long-term admirer of Hansi Flick and had been targeting him as Barcelona's new manager since about his re-election in 2021. So what exactly did he see in Hansi Flick? Why was he so obsessed with him? Well, let's go ahead and take a deeper look at that. And hello and welcome on this journey. If you're new here, this is Blogger on Everything. This is going to be a bit of a special because we're looking at exactly what to expect from Hansi Flick, a tactical analysis, if you will. And it might not be a two-parter. I think this is going to be a one-parter. Yeah, it's just going to be one part. Might be long, but that's good for the podcast listeners because you're going to be enjoying for at least, half an hour listening to me just droning on and on and on. Although I'll be talking about things that you can't really see from a podcast streaming platform, maybe. I don't know. But if you're listening on YouTube, then well, all the better for you. You're going to be able to see everything that I'm talking about and get a full understanding of exactly what's going on. So, Hansi Flick has taken the reins ahead of the upcoming season. A rightfully welcomed manager with a significantly contrasting managerial career thus far, right? I mean, He's really only had one full season in club football management, and everything Flick touched while he was at FC Bayern did, in some way or another, turn to gold in what was a chaotic 2020. On the other hand, his swift departure from Bayern Munich to join the national team led to an embarrassing group stage exit in the 2022 World Cup, an incident which, probably hurt Flick's public perception and managerial pedigree more than anything else could in his career. Unless he straight up stinks at Barca, I don't see him leaving this job with a worse look than, he got from that Germany look. And after a period of short reflection, Hansi Flick now has to go toe-to-toe with Carlo Ancelotti in an attempt to reclaim Barcelona's crown as Spanish champions, and really in an attempt to rival the man who at the moment is Europe's most cooking manager. That's right, it's a terminology that we're using now. Carlo Ancelotti is the most cooking manager. The appointment of Hansi Flick signifies a key switch towards attacking fluidity for Barca, which might sound a bit funny because they did have attacking fluidity at some point under Xavi, and Xavi was brought in for, attacking fluidity. But Hansi Flick represents attacking fluidity, rapid progression, and a remarkable exertion of energy when out of possession. Coolers should hopefully be eagerly anticipating this shift, with Barcelona having become slightly static and uninspiring and confusing as pressure grew under Xavi's tenure. So we are going to break down exactly what we expect from Hansi Flick's tactics, how things might take shape on the pitch, and especially with the current crop of talent he has at his disposal at Barcelona. So we can start by looking at the tactical setup, you know what I mean? The formation and all that X's and O's and how they move around. Hansi Flick has become synonymous with setting his teams up in a 4-2-3-1, a formation he rarely strayed from outside of a few matches in that 3-4-3 with Germany, and really that 3-4-3 came towards the end of his tenure when he was clutching at straws a little bit, just trying to figure out something, trying to do something, trying to get up, all right? He was trying to fight back. Whilst assertive in the initial positioning of his players, Flick also maintains tactical fluidity and consistently promotes intelligent movement to attack space in all thirds of the pitch. One of the Germans' main principles is the desire to play energetic, expansive football, aiming to pursue the quickest route to the final third. The central defensive partnership, much like the majority of modern-day centre-backs, must be competent on the ball but able to offer different styles and qualities to avoid being one-dimensional. To achieve this, Flick aims to utilize a central defender who has proficiency for mid to short line-breaking passes and competency carrying the ball forward and making use of vacated space. On the contrary, their partner must be able to bypass the midfield altogether with accurate long-range passing, whether diagonal balls toward the advanced wingers or directly to the imposing striking outlet. With Xavi in 23-24, Barca did lead the league in through passes per 90 with 2.58, representing one of the key metrics that allowed them to also set the standard with 1.99 non-penalty expected goals per 90. With this in mind, the recent development of both Pau Cubarsí and Ronald Araujo as an elite partnership must be exciting for Hansi Flick. The duo both display good ball progression, allowing this new-look Barca defense to increase their overall verticality, with Flick wanting to stretch the opponent's defense as much as possible. 17-year-old Pau Cubarsí in particular ranked within the 81st percentile for long pass completion percentage across Europe's top 5 leagues. And I mean, even just looking at this random graphic here, which I know is about Euro, who is another kid that's killing it in Liga A. But you can see from this graph here how Pau Cubarsí is really putting in that work, and same as well with Ronald Araujo, who, honestly speaking, is just a beast when it comes to winning those duels. And speaking of Araujo, he also impressed with 4.75 passes into the final third, which you think is going to be exciting because those are the kind of centre-backs that tend to succeed for Hansi Flick so far in his career. Now, even though it would appear that Barcelona will be able to gel into these new tactics, there is one key component that would have changed when concerning their build-ups down. Both Xavi and Hansi Flick have displayed a desire to maintain ball possession, but with the Spaniards successfully recording 64.3 possession in La Liga this past season, there is often an associated reluctance to be daring with the ball. This was evident when looking at the forward pass percentage and goalkeeper long ball percentage of just 27%, a figure which left them down in 20th and 19th respectively. Therefore, a Hansi Flick side can both maintain large amounts of possession in addition to looking to break through the lines at a rapid rate. Especially considering his tenure in Germany, many have suggested that Flick's team saw lots of the ball, not because of their natural ball dominance, but because of their ability to win the ball back when their counter-pressing so effectively was able to get them on top of the opposition. In possession, we would expect Barcelona's fullbacks to remain progressive and heavily involved in the build-up play, especially when supporting the wingers and creating space for them to invert. At the base of midfield, Flick will be welcomed by the eagerly anticipated return of Xavi, a supreme talent who would perfectly suit the role of a gritty ball winner to partner with a more progressive playmaker in a double pivot. For this, we can look towards somebody like Ilkay Gundogan, a man entrusted with the captaincy when playing under Flick for Germany. In their match against Japan, we can see how Gundogan, with the freedom to act as the more advanced member of the double pivot, delving into the half spaces to not only receive the pass from Sula but also connect with Wirtz, who nicely depicts the fluid Flick number 10 role mastered by Thomas Muller at Bayern Munich. And having said that, this deeper role is something which could suit, the deeper progressive role is something which could also suit a player like Pedri, as well as a player like Frankie de Jong. So, he's going to be spoiled for choices in that department. Once again, making use of Barcelona's elite midfield options, Pedri does stand out as a worthy candidate to play behind the striker in that number 10 role, although I should admit that personally I would prefer to put Gundogan in that number 10 role, but we're already seeing news that Hansi Flick wants to use Pedri as his Musiala in that number 10 role, so that's probably going to happen. And of course, we're probably going to see a few minutes in that position for Fermin Lopez as well, because he is a very good option going forward in that number 10 role, arriving late in the box, that sort of stuff. But despite Pedri's comfortability with playing as more of an 8 under Xavi, his relationship with Lewandowski plays a vital role in allowing Pedri to be comfortable as a 10. Having had experience playing off the left, Pedri could effectively play the Rom Duter role, the one that, what's his name? The one that Thomas Muller has made a career off of. That's also the same role that allowed Flick's Bayern to flourish in 1920, interpreting space across the front line. This includes drifting wide to create overloads with Barcelona's wingers, but also playing closer to Lewandowski and running beyond the Polish striker when he holds up possession. More creativity across the front line will only excite Lewandowski, who is reconnecting with a coach that allowed him to score 48 goals in Flick's only full season with Bayern. So, hopefully Lewandowski can hit even just half of that, 48 goals, because he's not exactly the guy he was back in 2020, right? Anywho, the most notable feature of Hansi Flick's system would have to be the incredible and relentless pressing efforts that aim to regain possession at the earliest possible opportunity. Pressing out of their natural shape within the 4-2-3-1, Flick depends on both fullbacks remaining high and willing to aggressively step up toward opposing wingers. The initial wave of the press is normally used to force play down one of the flanks. In this setup, the striker usually would aim to guide the ball progressor left or right, so the corresponding midfielder and fullback can accurately negate simple passing outlets through the central areas. We could see this, of course, being shown here as Germany apply this press on Japan. Under Flick, both Bayern and Germany were incredibly effective in their counter-pressing efforts, with several players looking to create numerical superiority and quickly dispossess the opponent. Because Barcelona will be expected to be much more ambitious when having the ball, the likelihood of turnovers is set to increase. However, they will be comforted by the fact that even Xavi's side this season were able to rank second in La Liga for passes per defensive action with 9.6 and have the highest gegenpressing intensity in La Liga of 52.89%. So, those people who tell us that Xavi's press, it wasn't there, that's not exactly true. Just maybe it wasn't as effective as it could have been. Flick will surely be grinning from ear to ear at the thought of implementing such ideologies into the younger generation of Barcelona talent. Guys like Xavi, guys like Fermin, guys like Pedri, who are pretty good at pressing, matching the necessary physical capabilities and desire to suffocate opponents. A glaring issue with Flick's expected implementation, though, would be the fact that Barcelona have consistently been vulnerable to balls played in behind, which would not be helped by an even more advanced defensive line. The key method in which Barcelona were hurt in La Liga last season was on the counter, with them conceding 0.13 xG from counters per 90 last campaign, a figure which saw them 15th out of all 20 teams in Spain's top flight. Flick will depend on the pace of his defensive unit to recover possession accurately, with the likes of Alejandro Balde maybe being used in a similar profile as Alphonso Davies, who enjoyed his best season learning from Barcelona's new boss. Having said all of this, it's probably like if I could give a warning of something which Barcelona should try to avoid, it's that good old-fashioned nostalgia, because we know that Barcelona has been enslaved to that drug of nostalgia. Ever since Pep Guardiola left the club, there's been that obsession with, let's play more like Pep. Let's have more Messi-like players. let's have more this, more that. And they need to be careful here that with Hansi Flick coming in, they're not caught in a situation where it's like, let's recreate Bayern 2020. Just because they have Lewandowski and maybe because they managed to get somebody like Joshua Kimmich, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. But that is probably the biggest threat that Barcelona has under Hansi Flick. Nostalgia, trying to recreate things from the past, whether it's the old Barca, whether it's the old Bayern. Do not fall into that trap, Mr. Hansi Flick. Please just focus on doing something new with what is a very exciting set of players that you have at Barcelona. And it could even be more exciting with some potential additions. With Barcelona's hierarchy deep though in discussion about how to tackle the club's ongoing financial issues and all the talk that we're hearing from Joan Laporta and also a lot of reports here and there, including from Javier Tebas, it's entirely possible that Barcelona could be in a position this summer where they're able to sign players because they won't have such a restricted FFP situation. And I think we already know who some of the obvious targets already are now, because I've covered them, spoke about them as well in the last video. But it doesn't hurt to look back again, since we are looking at what to expect under Hansi Flick. And one of those things to expect under the transfers is probably the transfer of Joshua Kimmich. Whilst the mention of Joshua Kimmich may seem all too predictable, because he did play under Hansi Flick throughout his managerial career, both at Bayern and at Germany, the Bayern midfielder does offer a crucial skill set that attacks an area of need for Barca. With João Cancelo expected to maybe return to Man City, although, we're told that Barcelona are looking to sign him, so we'll see how that goes. Barcelona might be unwilling, though, to pay a steep price for him, and Kimmich would represent a discounted option who is integral to ball progression in a Flick system. Majority of the better matches that Kimmich had last season for Bayern Munich came in a right-back role rather than a central midfield role. So, just like when playing for Germany, Kimmich adopted the right-back role incredibly well with the freedom to sustain possession in a 2-3-5 or 3-2-5 by inverting into midfield. Having a more defensive presence at the right side of defense would afford somebody like Balde more freedom to attack down the left, with with Araujo willing to cover the width if Kimmich were to move into midfield. Now into the final year of his contract, Barcelona should be eagerly waiting to hear the contract negotiations between Kimmich and Bayern, how well that goes, with there being a real opportunity for them to pounce and offer the German midfielder a new challenge. And like we said in our last podcast, Kimmich is somebody who Hansi Flick has himself committed to try and convince to come to Barcelona. The next person who we're going to talk about is, of course, the one player who I really hope Barcelona do sign. That is Nico Williams. Obviously, João Felix on the left is still being rumored, but I'm thinking I'm praying that's more to do with just, Jorge Mendes being Jorge Mendes and him not really having anywhere else to take João Felix. But Nico Williams would be, for me, a signing that could get a lot of coolers on their feet. Nico has experienced somewhat of a breakout season in 23-24, although to be quite honest, his breakout was probably like 22-23. But 23-24 is maybe when he exploded a lot more statistically, shouldering a significant amount of the team's attacking responsibilities in Bilbao with his explosive movement and direct approach. This kind of stuff suits Hansi Flick's side to a T, who will be looking to build upon a youthful core to lock down their starting wingers for years to come. When it comes to Williams' strengths, his ability to stretch defenses with darting runs in behind complements nicely with Flick's desire to increase Barcelona's verticality. Also, in order to unlock the full attacking arsenal of Barcelona strikers in Lewandowski and Vitor Roque, would probably expect Barca's crossing frequency to increase with more distribution towards the passing area, something which Xavi turned to as more of a plan B. With that in mind, Williams ranked within the 99th percentile of crosses into the penalty area when comparing against Europe's best wingers, completing 0.85 per 90. Not only does Nico aim to improve Barcelona's firepower in the final third, but he also represents an improvement in the defensive phase. Whilst playing in an athletic club side that completed the most high turnovers in La Liga with 374, Williams highlighted his value in regaining possession with 5.22 ball recoveries per 90, which is pretty insane for a winger. Having settled upon a contract extension earlier in the season, which contained a reasonable release clause of around 60 million, Williams could be prized away from Athletic Club to continue on his journey of becoming one of the world's most exciting forwards. So, in conclusion, Hansi Flick's ability to manage the commotion of Barcelona will be one of football's most intriguing stories to go into this upcoming season, with the departing manager Xavi suggesting that Hansi Flick is going to suffer in his new role if he doesn't win enough games. Barca fans can though expect to be reasonably optimistic that a switch of style could lead to a bit more competitive showing in both La Liga and in the Champions League, and probably maybe even in the Copa del Rey and Supercopa. Just generally, you can expect Barca to be a more formidable team going forwards, and the only issues for me it's going to be, first of all, like I had said, that nostalgia effect. Can Barcelona move past that nostalgia? Can they move past trying to recreate Pep's Barca? Can they move past trying to recreate Flick's Bayern with this team? And the other thing is definitely going to be defensive transitions. It's going to be those defensive transitions. This was probably Barcelona's biggest Achilles heel in the past season under Xavi Hernandez, and it's also a vulnerability we've seen with Hansi Flick's teams in Bayern as well as with Germany. We've seen that they are susceptible to that ball over the top because of how high that defensive line is. So can he reduce Barcelona's vulnerability in transition? That's what's going to determine just how far Barcelona go, just how competitive Barcelona are going to be. But as things go, Hansi Flick right now is the man that Joan Laporta has trusted with the job of guiding Barcelona away from all of the noise that they've had for the past season and to a place where they can get back to doing their talking on the pitch get back to, beating Real Madrid comfortably, maybe, and get back to just, dominating La Liga and competing in the Champions League the way that they should, really, with the team that they have. That is basically that for me, guys. You let me know what you would be expecting to see from Hansi Flick's team. If you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, go ahead and shoot your thoughts in the comment section. But aside from that, I thank you all for tuning in. Do have a great day, and Forza Barca.